and took away. They found all these pigs that re-released, or didn't release, but they got away, and then they started multiplying. They wiped out entire cornfields and things in no time at all. They went into the aircraft and everything else, trying to hunt them down, shoot them and everything. They just were smart for them, they just move around. They found it was darn coyotes. Oh, I think it was coyotes. Yeah, coyotes. Well, the pigs we think was way too big for the coyotes, but they found that some of the films of what the pigs were doing. They would distract the mama pigs and eat the babies. They keep them from, and the pigs could do what the man could not do. Or the
All right, we're going to get started. We'll put the pigs aside.
Oh, I got something to talk about a little bit.
Okay?
Yeah.
Why don't you move up, Walter?
Water.
Water?
Water. Have we ever thought about what water means as in relationship to God?
Yeah. Oftentimes, the Holy Spirit is metaphorically referred to as water. There's Old Testament scriptures that talk about God's presence, that we are baptized into God. Well,
Actually, it's much more basic than that. I actually took some notes. As far as Genesis 2, the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Still in Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, it said, then God said, let there be light. Then in 6, he said that the space between the waters, in other words, he started to separate the waters. And then in 9, again, he says, let the waters beneath the sky flow together, meaning that now you're forming oceans and rivers and whatnot. The human body, we always think of dust, that he made us from dust. 60% of our body is water. Let's see. The human body can only exist 3 to 5 days without water. When Jesus was on the cross and the soldier pierced his side with the sword, blood and water flowed from Jesus. Now the blood is for our sins, but that water is basically the living water. It is what brings us back to Jesus. We need that water. We search for the water, and without the water, we become dead. We need that. We always are seeking that water. Water was always holy, as far as you needed to wash in water to be in the presence of God. God separated the Red Sea to bring his people into the wilderness out of Egypt. He parted the Jordan so that they could go under the water. Was crucial from the very beginning with God, and then into Jesus as far as being the living water, which now takes care of our soul. We need the body to exist, but we also need the water for the soul.
Right.
So water, that just really, when I found that and I started researching how many places water appeared throughout the Old Testament before Jesus came, it was just, and Jesus said at Jacob's well with his Miriam again, God helped him with, Jacob and the well. Water was always, he always withheld the water in order to try to teach them a lesson. Drought, no rain. I'm going to contaminate the Nile. It was always water. Water was crucial in our being.
Well, in the readings that we did this week, the building of Solomon's temple, and then the fall of Solomon, and all the others.
Well, even in Revelations, when they talk about
The sea of glass.
you know, the rivers are flowing, you know, the rivers of the light and the, you know, the whole thing, it gets back to, it's water again.
Right.
You know, the living water is flowing from Jesus, and that's the temple, and that's the.
Well, in the building of Solomon's temple, he built what's called the laver, and he called it the sea.
Yeah.
Because it was so full of water, and that's where they would go and wash and cleanse, and that was
It's the water again.
that was important. And then they had channels where after they had the animals that had channels, and they just recently discovered these in Israel. They've had channels where the water would flow and cleanse the area from all the blood and everything else. But yeah, and that's why in Revelation it talks about the sea of glass. That's a relation to the sea in Solomon's temple. And then when you see in Revelation when it talks about wormwood, which is a symbolic picture, but he used a physical example of a symbolic picture because wormwood means bitterness. And so, and it made the waters bitter. Well, the waters, or if the waters are in us, then men's hearts become bitter. Men's soul will become bitter. But I don't want to get way ahead of us because we will talk about Revelation in the fall. And I know that everybody's excited that's listening right now. They're
And then as far as politics, really, I thought it was interesting that the temple that Solomon built was an inverted triangle.
How do you figure?
Did you ever? Yeah, because he built the first layer, then the second layer was bigger,
Okay.
and then the third layer was even bigger again. So when you look at it, it's almost an inverted triangle.
Actually, no. It's because he built side colonnades along the sides of the temple. So when you look at the actual picture of it, it's the Holy of Holies was a square. It was a box within a box within a box, and that's basically what the temple looked like. And then on the sides of the temple were the side rooms where they stored a lot of things.
But they still each level stuck out further than the one below.
Well, then it wouldn't stand. It would have to be.
That's what amazed me is how he went from the square below, and then we built the next one on top, and it actually overhung the one underneath. And I'm thinking that's like, when you look at it, it's got to be that type of arrangement coming
Kind of like a
down.
overhanging with the porch, pillars on the outside that hold the.
I
Yeah.
was wondering how he supported that weight out that way.
Well, you know, the foundation of the temple and of the palace was 15 feet long stones. So they were big.
Yeah.
So, and they found those foundations. You can actually look online at the foundation stones of the temple in Israel today that are underground, but they're not overlapping like that. They're all
Yeah.
like this.
Well, it explains that he built that first level within the confines of the measurements. But then the next level, because it was 3 levels, so the next level overhung that bottom, not unless it had outer poles supporting that weight.
Poles.
But even then, that third level, what the heck was supporting it going out?
How far out did it overhang?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's worth investigating.
Yeah.
How big they were, that way you can figure how much it overhung. And if it's,
I don't know where I read that.
10, 20 feet on either side, all the way around, well, they'd have to probably have pillars of some kind. But the fact that, it talks about it all being built without hammers or any sound, that they're all prefab outside and brought in. Are we to the point where they killed the other giant, Goliath's brother yet, or is that not that far yet?
Not that far yet.
Oh.
So architecturally, the actual biblical and historical Solomon's Temple was not an inverted triangle according to historical and biblical records. It was a rectangular, flat-roofed stone structure.
Flat roof.
Flat roof.
Does it say what the dimensions of each layer was?
No.
Because I think it wouldn't be triangle unless it's a square, with a little bit bigger square, a little bit bigger square, and that would be porches if that was the case. But I did, oh, there it is.
This here?
Second one, would that be it? No, that's backwards still. That'd be not inverted. That's
Yeah.
the other direction.
So this is Solomon's Temple right here.
Is that the first building?
Yeah, this is the first one. So you've got the two pillars in the front, which were Boaz and Joachim, and then you've got the foundation stones, which are here. Hi, Katie. Then you have these side rooms right here. And here's the C, here's the laver, and it was a flat-roofed rectangle. And then in here was the Holy of Holies, the holy place, and then the outer court. So it's basically a box within a box within a box.
Where did you read the sizes being bigger and bigger on top?
She's trying to find it.
I remember which chapter it went into detail about the size of each level. Can't find it. I thought his
First Kings 6:6.
Huh?
First Kings 6:6. The bottom level was 5 cubits wide, so 7.5 feet. The middle level was 6 cubits wide, so approximately 9 feet. And then the top level was 7 cubits wide. So that's probably what you're thinking of.
That makes it, yeah, that makes it sound different.
The main temple structure itself is 60 cubits long.
Now, the bottom level, is that a building or is that a structure?
That's a structure. So 7.5 feet to 9 feet to 10 feet, 10 and a half feet. This is width, this is not length. So the length had to be the same. So let's see.
So it says the complex was 3 stories high, bottom floor was 7 feet wide, 7.5 feet wide. The second floor was 9 feet wide,
Yeah,
and the top floor was 10.5 feet wide. But
Right.
That's going up like that again. You know, it's wider at the top than it is at
Yeah.
the bottom.
So what you're reading is the dimension of the side chambers, not the dimension of the temple.
Oh, okay.
So the side chambers are the ones that are overlapping like that.
Yeah, that's.
But not, but the, yeah, but those are the side chambers. The actual temple itself is a rectangle. Yeah. That's good to know though. I mean, because it's good to know.
Yeah, the other thing I thought was very interesting was when he prayed at the dedication of the temple.
Hmm.
And this is King Solomon, and he's praying, and he says, if they pray towards this temple and turn from their sin, God will hear them. If they pray by turning towards the city and towards this temple, their prayers will be answered, you know, their prayers will be heard.
Hmm.
If they pray towards the land that you gave their ancestors, towards the city, towards this temple, then the prayers will be heard. That almost is what, you know, when you think of Islam, and their prayers, they are always praying to the east,
That's where they got it from.
you know. So I thought it was interesting that the further away from the temple you became,
Hmm.
you still needed to orient yourself to where it was in order to pray.
Because the temple represented God's presence.
And that's where he was at that time.
Right. So his presence, that's you always want, you never want to turn your back on God's presence, right? And that's where it all started, was with Solomon. And then 1,000 years later, Islam said, well, we're going to do the same thing. And so now they pray towards Mecca, even though Mecca is not their holiest site.
Yeah.
The holiest site is actually, what is the name of it? It's that ancient city that's built in the cliffs. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the
I
name.
remember seeing pictures of it.
Yeah, it's Petra.
Okay.
Petra is the holiest site because they worship the moon god. So that's where the holiest site is. But for some reason, they made Mecca and the Kaaba, which is the big black box with the stone in the middle.
Well, it's interesting that they also, the, the, uh, the Israelites weren't allowed to eat pork, and of course the Muslims don't eat pork. If you look at a lot of the things at the core, it's
They copied
directly from,
Yeah, it's like the Mormons today. The Mormons copy everything that Christians do, and they call themselves Christian, but they're not, because what they believe is just totally off
My
the wall.
brother told me, well, I'm gossiping when I said that my sister's doing this, that she's not really all Mormon, she also does New Age. Does that make that any better?
Right.
And, well, that's gossiping. Well, I'm sorry. That's gossiping.
Yeah.
You're the one that told me first.
Right.
So, well,
Yeah, and then what did Paul say? Paul said that, all things, you can eat anything,
yeah,
but just as long as it's not sacrificed to an idol.
yeah, well, yeah, when they were trying to convince everybody that they had to be circumcised, and they were all arguing about that, and somebody stood and said, well, God already accepted them as it is. The only restrictions is, like I said, not, and that wasn't really because of, it being wrong to eat of that food, is because it showed that it could mislead somebody else that's watching you. Now, if you eat of that, if somebody else sees you do that, then that justifies what they're doing, and what they're doing is actually to a God, and what you're doing is just eating. But
Well, that was specifically Timothy, because Paul was taking Timothy with him to Israel, to Jerusalem. And so the Jewish leaders there of the church were there. And so they followed the Jewish practices of dietary. And so that's why he told Timothy, you don't just eat anything you want. I mean,
yeah,
out of respect, eat, yeah.
right. Offense or guide, because if you believe something's wrong and you do it anyhow, if it's wrong or not, if you believe it's wrong for you.
Right, right. How are you? You have any questions?
well, it's interesting, and I can't remember who the prophet was, told, wasn't Jeroboam, it was the other one, that God was gonna give him Israel, he was gonna give him 10 tribes,
Mm-hmm.
and only one tribe would remain with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, I thought that there's 12 tribes.
Right.
If you get 10 and there's one over here, what happened to Dan?
Yeah.
And then I think it was like right after that, it sort of indicated that Dan was raised up with Judah to always help the king under, I guess, the heading of.
Right. So always remember that Dan was the tribe that made the golden calf.
Yeah.
And then look what Jeroboam does.
Yeah.
He makes the 2 golden calves, and he does the same thing, and he leads the people astray. So, but the tribe of Judah is the lineage of Jesus.
Yeah.
And everybody that followed him.
It's interesting that there was always the distinction between Israel and Judah. They were never really sort of combined into one, only at the very beginning, I think, were they ever
Right.
combined as one.
Right.
That separation started early on,
Mhm.
as far as that.
And what caused the separation? This is important. What caused the separation? Turning away from God. It's those who followed God and those who didn't. Because you look at the two prophets. You have the old prophet, right? And you have the man of God that met up. And the man of God said, no, I can't eat any food. I can't drink anything here because God told me not to. And he gives them the judgment of God, and he walks away and goes and sits under a tree. And the other guy, the old prophet, comes over and says, oh, God told me that you can eat and come home with me. So that's what he did. But then what he did was he got judged for that because he disobeyed God. He listened to a man rather than God. And how many times have we heard that today? You have people saying, God told me.
Yeah.
And when they say that, they're leading you astray. I remember the story of, I don't know if you know who Marilyn Hickey is. Back in, she was part of the whole charismatic movement, but I remember her. I was in the foyer of the church, and she was standing right there, and another woman came up and who felt, who had been leading a Bible study and everything else. And the other woman went up to her and said, so God told me that I'm supposed to be your Elisha, you're Elijah, and I'm supposed to be your Elisha. So I'm supposed to be with you and follow you everywhere. And I'll never forget Marilyn Hickey. I didn't like her teaching. I didn't like anything about what she stood for, but I liked this. And she looked at it and she said, well, God didn't tell me. Told you, but he didn't tell me. So until he tells me, you're on.
The case that we need to be checking on, because that's basically how most of these religions come up.
Yes.
Mormon came up and said, well, an angel of light, happened to be a dead man, came and told me.
Right. Seventh-day Adventists, the same thing.
Yeah.
And
How do you tell, like you've got the old prophet, and you've got the man of God, and the old prophet must have been prophesizing to be an old prophet.
mm-hmm.
So how did you know the difference between the one that was really speaking on God's behalf and the false prophets who ran around?
Well, the old prophet wasn't a false prophet, but he deceived the man of God by giving him a false prophecy. But then what happened? He ended up prophesying the reality to him and judgment on him because he listened to him instead of the other guy. So that's how you know. The man of God should have said, no, I know what God told me. So thank you, but no thank you. Yeah, I mean, he still talks to me. That's why he sent me in the first place, right? So if he sent me to prophesy to Jeroboam and them, then he will tell me if I need to go with you. That's what he should have done, but he didn't. What he did is he listened to the guy who said, well, God told me. Okay, well, I guess that must be right because you're an older prophet than I am. So
Prophets didn't always follow God. In fact, one that got ate by the fish, he wanted to go the other way.
right. So the Bible tells us in the New Testament to test the spirits, and it doesn't mean like the demon spirits and this spirit and that spirit. It means human spirits because humans have spirits, right? So we have to test their motivation. We have to test their words. We have to test what they say and how they act. So if someone comes up to you and says, sister, God told me that you need to be doing this and this and this and this. You have to test it. And you have to say, well, I believe that God tells me and talks to me. So he'll show me things in his word. And if that's true, then, yeah, and then take 3 days and wait. I've had so many people come up to me and say, God told me, God told me, God said, and people just throw that out. They're like, it's nothing. But I know, and I know in my heart of hearts, that those people are listening to something else. They're not listening to God. Because God is the same. And if he's going to tell me something, he'll tell you the same thing, tell Katie the same thing, tell Walter the same thing.
Familiar spirits and things, not God.
You're right, and that's talking to the dead. Those, people
Talking to the
people who
dead.
say that the spirits come back to them of their former relatives, those are familiar spirits. Those are demons.
Well, my mom and dad, they're my sisters, when I got baptized for them, they were so happy that
Right.
he deliberately wanted to be baptized like Jesus, so he went and got baptized in the river. But that must not have been good enough because they had to be baptized into that church for them. So then he had to do it for them
Right.
after they were dead.
Right.
That's kind of saying that you have to do, somebody else can do works for you even to get you into heaven.
Yeah. Even if you're the sinner of sinners,
Yeah.
someone else can do the works for you, and then you're clear.
Yeah. And it's works again, but it's somebody else even doing the works.
Right.
And
Yeah.
both statements is wrong. There is no works.
Right.
You have to just accept, and then the works should follow, but the works ain't what's getting you there.
Yeah. The works it's talking about is employment, corresponding action. So faith without works is dead. So faith without corresponding action. In other words, if you have faith in Jesus, you have faith in God, then your works, your actions should reflect that you have faith in God. That's what that means.
You're following him, trying to be like you. That's
Right.
that,
Not that you're trying to earn your way into heaven,
Right.
because you can't.
I'm more good than bad. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
That should work. I do more good than bad. Therefore, that should qualify me. A spot is a spot. Don't matter how big the spot is, it's still there.
Yeah.
You need something to remove that spot.
What else?
How do you know that God's talking to you? What if you don't hear him?
You won't hear an audible voice. I mean,
No, I don't mean that.
I don't. I mean, I hear, I look at it this way. God's never going to say anything that's outside of what he's already said in his word. So you use his word as your standard, right? It has to match up with his word in the context that he said it. So if he gives you an impression, in other words, he could talk to you through a gut feeling, but you got to make sure that that lines up with the word. He could talk to you through a dream and give you a dream, but you'll know it when it's a dream from God or if it's just your mind being busy.
Or when you realize something new in the Bible that you read many times before, but now you realize it's saying this also.
Right. He could talk to you through a vision. You could be walking down the street and all of a sudden it's like everything goes blurry and then you see an event. He could talk to you through other people. Other people can say something to you, and it could be sounded like general conversation, like right now, but all of a sudden, I might say something, and all of a sudden that pricks your heart, and you say, "Oh, I need to hear that."
Jesus made one. He says, more blessed than those who have not seen and believe. And that word "seen," I'm not sure on this. I think that word "seen" isn't just necessarily visual.
Mhm.
I think
It's perceived.
They're perceiving, and they have not, perceived. They have not experienced. They have
Right.
not. So it isn't by our experience or what we necessarily see or necessarily what we hear, but they believe because of the word.
That's why it says, "Walk by faith, not by sight." Not by what you see, not by what you feel, not by what other people tell you, but you walk by faith, and you get that faith from reading the Word of God. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing the Word of God is what the Bible says. So we have to hear the Word.
We just dwell on the Word, that is hearing from God.
Right.
For us.
Right.
Because like he was saying, I think that was his point when he was telling the disciples, more blessed that he has not seen or not experienced, has not been walking with me, literally.
Right. So the important part of that is that, yes, that's how we should look at it. We should always use the Bible as our standard and what he said in the Bible. However, we should not discount or dismiss
Visions or the rest.
supernatural
Check it with
things,
God.
but we check it.
I think what I'm getting at is you're praying and you're asking for direction.
Mhm.
Okay? And so how do you discern that it's not me thinking that's the way I should go, but it's
Yeah.
God telling me that's the way. How do you tell the difference?
That's always the trick, isn't it? It's kind of like, okay, is that God or is that me? I have a rule, and my rule is if I'm praying for direction on something, then I'll wait 3 days. I won't expect an answer like right now. If I have to make that decision right now, I'll put that decision off until 3 days later, because then my mind is clear. I've set it aside, and all of a sudden, I'll see a door opening. I'll see um, something else happening, or I'll just be able to say, okay, I get a check now. I'm clear. I can go this way.
What if you don't know?
Well, you have to know.
Do you still pursue, even though, you know?
Yeah, you can. You know, the Bible says that God directs our steps. You know, man makes his plans, but God directs our steps. So we can say, okay, I haven't heard anything from God, and Christy and I have experienced this quite a bit. So we'll say, okay, well, we haven't heard from God on whether or not we should do this. We're just going to move forward and do this. And if we run into tons of obstacles, we'll stop. And if we don't, then we'll just keep going, because maybe God is having us go that way. The thing is that, you know, we can't presume something because this is what we want to do. We have to do things, and this is why we keep our focus on doing what He wants us to do, which is to grow and mature in Him and get to know Him. Because where's His will? His will is in His Word. So if we know His Word and we are solid in His Word, then there won't be any question. I don't have those instances very much anymore, where I'm not really sure. You know, now I just start heading a direction, and if I'm seriously going in the wrong direction, then I know and I trust that God will steer me away from that direction. And so, but in the meantime, if I'm praying for a decision about something, should I do this or not? You know, I'll wait. And usually it's 3 days, and if not, I'll just keep waiting. You know, wait on the Lord, and He'll strengthen your heart. He'll renew your strength. So you have to wait on the Lord for Him to lead you, and He will, because He's faithful, and you have to trust that.
Free choice unless it's something that He shows you not to do. And a lot of times, you know, do I have apple or orange? Well, it doesn't matter as long as He's not telling you not to eat it or not to do it.
Well, let me ask you this then. So if you're standing there at a campfire and you want to stick your hand in the fire, you think God's going to tell you not to do it?
Well, you'll find out real fast if it's a good idea or not.
You're right?
But He'll let you do that because.
Will He?
Well, He'll let you put your hand in the fire if you want.
See, people forget that God gave us an intellect.
Yeah.
He gave us common sense. He gave us a brain so we can use it. So we use that common sense to say, you know, it's not a good idea to stick my hand in the fire because I'll get burned.
If you do, you'll learn real fast you don't want to do it again.
Well, if you do, then I'm wondering, you know, how.
Well,
Yeah, you're right.
well, there's a lot of us out there. But once you do it, most people learn real fast that God built me in a way that don't want to do that. That hurt.
Yeah. Well, you're not gonna walk in the path of a grizzly bear on purpose just because you don't know any better. Yeah, well, I take that back. I just saw a picture of a lady who was arrested and fined in Yellowstone National Park because she saw a grizzly bear off in the distance, and so she wanted to get a picture with the grizzly bear in the background. Well, the grizzly bear was only 20 feet away, and she's trying to walk by real fast and say, take the picture, you know. And here's the grizzly bear right there. And it's like that bear could have torn her to pieces in a heartbeat. He's so much stronger and faster than her. And she made it out, and they arrested her, and they fined her lots of money. So people do seem to miss common sense nowadays, especially nowadays, because it's like this whole new generation. I don't know what it is. I think it started back when everybody is a winner. You know, remember in grade school, when you would have a field day, you know, you had winners and you had losers, and now everybody gets a trophy. And so I think that's when it started, because now people don't know that there are consequences. They don't know, they don't have common sense. And that's why you have people, politically going out and trying to stop ICE from doing what they do. Well, don't step in front of a car, right? Don't step in front of a guy with a gun. That's common sense, you would think. But
instead of using words, they got a gun and they're driving a car.
Right.
Everybody's complaining because somebody shot her.
Well, and then I saw this other video where this guy, he was trying to pick up his daughter at school, and all these protesters were blocking the road, and he just wanted to get through. And one of the protesters threw a brick at his windshield and broke his windshield. And it's like they've lost all sense of rationale.
Somebody got arrested because he was trying to go through, and he was driving slow and everything. The protesters trying to block. He was moving slow and everything, so they again smashed his window and trying to drag him and his family out. He shot one of them, so he got in trouble.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more of that. We're seeing more and more stupid people running around everywhere doing stupid things.
Stupid people who are making it legal for them to do it.
Well, in Europe, the people who were protesting against oil, right? They'd block roads, and sometimes they'd block ambulances or people who were trying to get to a hospital, and they would interlock arms and they wouldn't move, and so they would have to get dragged by their hair just to get out of the way so the people can move. So it's you see a lot of stupidity.
Well, there was a woman the other day at one of those ICE detention centers, and she was protesting on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Pickup truck, and trying to tell her to go in, and she must step out sort of on the side of it, and it hit her, shoved her to the ground, and probably injured her arm when she hit the ground, but you don't in front of moving vehicles.
Right.
What part of don't play in the street?
Exactly. See, and that's what we're talking about, common sense.
It's worse when you have the governors and things telling them to go do that.
Right. But here, let's bring this full circle now, back to what we were reading about Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and we know that one is the son of Solomon. They saw during Solomon's reign what happens when you follow the Lord. They saw what happens when you don't follow the Lord, and yet they still choose to not follow the Lord.
When that prophet spoke, he's a prophet. It's almost like the governor said, go ahead out and rebel against ICE. Go out ahead and do what this, it's okay. And the prophet was saying it's okay, come back and eat, when it wasn't.
Right.
The governors are saying it's okay to go block the road and do everything against ICE because we're for it, and it's not.
Right. So it all comes down to what's common sense. God gave us a brain. He gave us an intellect. He told us what to do and how to do it. And he made it easy for us. So to not do it, you have to be stupid. Some kind of level of stupid, because or paid or stubborn. Well, sure.
Believing somebody because so-called authority is like that one used to be the prophet.
Right.
But instead of the real authority, the one that you were just talking to, God, that like these people are following governors and saying, oh, hey, I'm a Democrat and he's a Democrat, and he's saying it's okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're following a mayor, a governor, a president. Yeah, a president is just as fallible as everybody else. And so if you're following a man, then you're doomed for destruction, because the man is going to make mistakes and he's going to make failures, regardless of how good he is. So, I watched this one interview where this guy was being interviewed by the Senate, and the senator asked him a simple question: is our border now secure? Simple question, right? The answer should have just been, yeah, it is. But he said, well, it was secure when Biden was president. It's like he was so delusional about the truth that he couldn't even say it. And that's where people are. and God gives them over to that. He will do that. He'll give you over to it. Yep, and you'll just start thinking that way, and that's why these people think this way, is that you've been given over to it, and if you're given over to it, there's no getting through to you until God opens up your heart.
Scripture tells us stubbornness is idolatry.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. We just started out.
Wow, service.
I know.
All
All right, no other questions? Okay, I'm going to go shut this off.
Morning, Ken. Did Paul tell you what we're going to decide? Did Paul tell you what we decided on the creek? We're not going to wait till the new home because that's going to have